He's one of Europe's most enigmatic figures. A man whose name inspires both fear and respect. He doesn't move in the shadows like most gangsters, but prefers to rub shoulders with the world's elites. From the rich billionaire's playground in Monaco, to the bustling red light district of Germany and the Netherlands. His influence can be felt throughout the whole of Europe. He's one of the most feared men who went from a biker to one of Europe's biggest mobsters. This is the story of Necati Arabaci. Necati hails from a different breed of criminals. Molded by a tough upbringing as an immigrant in a foreign country. He is the embodiment of innovation and ingenuity. Managing to pull off something his predecessors in the crime world could only dream of. A unique ability to walk a fine line between a gangster and a legitimate businessman. Unlike Pablo Escobar or El Chapo, who had to maintain their empires from the shadows whilst being on the run. Constantly at war with various law enforcement agencies. Necati plies his trade out in the open. In full view of the public and importantly being accepted and embraced in elite circles. Never shying away from the spotlight. Even stopping for street interviews from car bloggers in Monaco. But don't be deceived by his charm or Hollywood swagger. There is a reason he rolls around the streets of Monaco with a private militia. Constantly surrounded by armed men. Normally escorted by convoys of armored cars that would rival political dignitaries' motorcades. His reputation in the world of crime truly precedes him. He is known as the Merchant of Souls. And with good reason. To find out why, stick around and please show some love by hitting that like and subscribe button if you are a fan of true crime stories. This is the Mystery Reporter channel. And today we unpack the mystery crime boss that is Necati Arabaci. His rise to infamy from a Hell's Angel biker to Europe's biggest trafficker. Necati was born in Cologne in 1972. Little is known about his childhood. His parents originally came from Turkey. It was not until the 1990s that the German-Turkish man appeared on the authorities' radar. Like many immigrants in the 80s and 90s, he was subjected to ostracism due to his status as a foreigner. This discrimination made life a living hell for a young man who just wanted to find his place in the world and earn a living. But he wasn't alone in his struggles. A growing population of immigrants at the time meant he had peers who loathed the very same subjugation he was exposed to. Many of these young German-born Turkish youngsters started to form small coalitions, as they had been formerly viewed as outsiders. Opportunities were scarce for them, so they had to create their own luck. But this came at a cost. These coalitions were in fact the early formations of gangs. Their motto was to make money at all costs, no matter the repercussions. In the early 2000s, things seemed to be looking up for a young Necati. He had managed to carve out his own hustle in the streets of Cologne. He had established a fruit and vegetable business that was thriving. That's what everyone thought, at least. Little did they know, this was just a glimpse into the dark trajectory Necati's life was about to take on. In 2002, the chickens came home to roost for Necati. His facade was unraveled for the first time and all his deeds lay bare for all to see. A special task force had been hot on his heels since 1999. Unmasking his dirty dealings in the red light district of Cologne. He had systematically grown his influence through extortion and intimidation. He had established a vast operation in which he controlled numerous brothels such as the Babylon in Elsdorf and the Wyago in Leverkusen. How was he able to exert so much control as the king of pimping? He was just one man after all, right? Wrong. This is where Necati's ties to the Hells Angels came to light. His close association and long-standing relationships with characters such as Frank Hambeth serves as a testimony to his deep ties with the Hells Angels MC Nomads. Members of the motorcycle club were known to operate as security at his establishments. In essence, Hells Angels members were his enforcers in the streets of Cologne, facilitating his meteoric rise to being the godfather of Cologne. German law enforcement was still oblivious to the danger he posed until they caught wind of a startling revelation. Following his arrest in 2002, He would receive a 9-year sentence in Bochum. While serving his sentence, he was implicated in a scheme to assassinate the state's leading prosecutor. He had issued a green light, authorizing a bounty in the streets. This meant even judges and other law enforcement officials were not safe. This prompted his deportation back to Turkey after serving only a third of his 9-year bid. Though he couldn't be prosecuted for the assassination attempt due to lack of evidence, it just indicated he was no small-time player in the streets of Cologne. As all this was taking place, something else was emerging. Germany was on its way to legalizing sex work. It meant the brothels that once operated in the shadows could now come to the forefront as legitimate businesses. The Prostitution Protection Act was meant to remove stigma and reduce cases of human trafficking within the red light district by requiring all sex workers to formally register themselves. The blurry lines between consensual sex workers and non-consensual workers is exactly what characters like Necati have chosen to exploit. Young women are lured into the trade by being promised viable and legitimate job prospects, only to find themselves stuck in a perpetual cycle of sexual slavery. Most of the women in this industry aren't German citizens. These are normally women from Turkey, Ukraine, Russia, and Romania. They know they might not be privileged enough to get the protection of the government since most come through illegitimate methods. Necati continues to move around with impunity as the law can't seem to make any charges stick. In 2015, a Spanish court issued a European arrest warrant for Arabaci over suspected organized crime, extortion, pimping and drug trafficking. He was briefly detained in Turkey in 2018 but released due to lack of evidence. Arabaci has continued to surface across Europe, often flaunting luxury cars in Monte Carlo and more recently appearing in Slovakia. Local tabloids reported that he had been spotted with Slovak rapper Ritmus in Bratislava earlier this year. Facing expulsion, Slovak authorities have now moved to expel Arabaci from the country, though his lawyer, Namir Al-Yusri, confirmed that an appeal against the decision has been filed. Company records also list Arabaci as the sole director of NS Enterprise SRO, a firm registered in Samarin, near Bratislava, though his official residence is given as Fužine, Croatia. For now, Arabaci remains at liberty in Slovakia while the appeal process unfolds. A controversial photo. Michaela Ganovska, a journalist and parliamentary candidate for the far-right Republika Party in the 2023 elections, recently posted a photograph on social media standing next to Arabaci. She described him as a world celebrity, comparing him to Slovak influencer Zuzana Plekova and convicted mobster Mikula Cernik.